A hunting dog freezes at the tree line, hackles up, refusing another step into the hollow. Somewhere in the dark ahead, wood cracks against wood. 3 deliberate knocks, answered a moment later from a different direction in the brush. This isn't a campfire story from some far-off wilderness. This is a Tuesday night in the Ozarks, and it's happened here for longer than anyone alive can remember. The American interior is a landscape of ancient elevations. In the south-central United States, 2 ranges define the wilderness: the Ozark Plateau and the Ouachita Mountains. Oak hickory forest, cave systems that run for miles underground, limestone bluffs that drop into white water. This is Missouri's show-me backcountry, rural Arkansas, and the remote timberlands of southeastern Oklahoma. Popular culture points to the Pacific Northwest when it thinks of Sasquatch. But the reporting record in these central highlands is among the oldest and most persistent in North America, built on the accumulated weight of thousands of independent accounts from farmers, hunters, truck drivers, and local deputies who have every reason to keep quiet. The numbers back it up. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization logs between 166 and 168 reports in Missouri alone, the 9th highest total in the country. Arkansas and Oklahoma each carry over 100 listings of their own, with fresh reports still coming in through 2025 and 2026. We're not here to settle myth versus reality. We're here to trace a pattern, one that follows the terrain, the rainfall, and a history of these woods that runs deeper than most people realize. The sightings aren't scattered at random. In Missouri, roughly 65% of all reports cluster in the forested Ozarks south of the Missouri River, with Pike, Crawford, Jackson, and Camden counties surfacing again and again. Cross into the Ouachitas, along the Arkansas-Oklahoma line, and the clustering gets even tighter. Miller, Polk, Saline, and Pope counties in Arkansas. Lafleur County in Oklahoma alone carries 25 listings, with McCurtain and Pushmataha close behind. Biologist Darrell Collier's research found something striking: nearly a 90% correlation between credible sightings and areas that receive at least 35 inches of rain a year. The sightings cling to water: the red, the sulfur, the Merrimack, the Sabine, river bottoms that offer reliable water and thick cover to move through unseen. The pattern is an animal mostly active at dawn, dusk, and after dark, wary enough to live on the edge of rural towns without getting caught. And the emptier the land gets, the more the reports pile up. What exactly is using this terrain to stay one step ahead of us? Before going further, we have to deal with the obvious answer. Mainstream science attributes most of these reports to misidentified black bears. Missouri's bear population was nearly wiped out by the 1930s, but has clawed back to an estimated 800 to 1,000 animals, concentrated in the same Ozark counties, driving the sighting numbers. Arkansas now holds over 5,000 bears. The Oklahoma Ouachitas support roughly 2,500. On paper, it tracks. Sighting frequency often rises and falls with bear density, roughly 1 report per 5,000 bears. But that explanation runs into trouble the moment you talk to witnesses who actually know bears: guides, hunters, wildlife biologists like Alton Higgins, people who aren't easily fooled by one in bad light. What they describe instead is a compliant gait: knees and hips bent, the body gliding forward smoothly, nothing like a bear's stiff, upright shuffle on short hind legs. They report animals standing 7 to 8 feet tall, well above a bear reared up on its haunches. And bears don't produce multi-tonal, primate-like whoops, don't strike trees with branches to signal, and don't throw stones with overhead accuracy. That gap is where this investigation really begins. This isn't a modern phenomenon dressed up by television. In the mid-1800s, a wave of wild man reports ran through newspapers nationwide. In February and March of 1846, sightings surfaced in the Crowley's Ridge area of eastern Arkansas. The Baltimore Sun described a 22-inch track, toes as long as a common man's fingers, on a creature double the height and build of an ordinary man. In May 1851, the Memphis Inquirer ran an account from a hunter named Hamilton in Greene County, who found his cattle panicked, chased by a huge animal covered with hair, with long locks that fairly enveloped his neck and shoulders. It fled, leaping from 12 to 14 feet at a time, leaving 13-inch tracks. The article noted the creature had been traditionally known in the area for at least 17 years already, pushing the record back to roughly 1834. The most violent account comes from April 1856 near the Upper Red River, where a hair-covered creature reportedly mauled a mounted hunter and made off with his horse. A pursuit party that included Choctaw trackers followed it into the snow-covered Ouachitas and lost it in the high country. Nearly 2 centuries before trail cameras and cell phones, the woods were already keeping this secret. The early 1970s produced the 2 cases that would define this region's reputation. First, the Fouke Monster of Miller County, Arkansas. On the night of May 1st into May 2nd, 1971, Bobby and Elizabeth Ford reported an attack at their own home. Bobby described a 7-foot-tall, hairy, red-eyed creature. Elizabeth said a clawed arm came through the window at her. No blood was ever found, but the sheriff's department documented claw marks on the porch and unmatched tracks. 3 weeks later, witnesses DC and Wilma Woods watched a similar creature cross Highway 71 near Fouke. A year later, in July 1972, the scare moved to Louisiana, Missouri, and a creature the press nicknamed Momo, short for the Missouri Monster. It started at the base of Marzolf Hill, when 3 Harrison siblings, ages 8, 5, and 15, watched a 7-foot, hairy, pumpkin-headed beast carrying a dead dog. It came with a smell, a moldy horse smell or a strong garbage smell, their father said. A neighbor who heard it growl said the odor was worse than any old goat you ever smelled, and that a bear doesn't run on 2 feet. What sets Momo apart is who got involved. Footprint casts went to Lawrence Curtis, director of the Oklahoma City Zoo, who concluded they belonged to an unknown primate. The town raised a 20-person posse, sealed off 200 acres, and searched. Nothing was caught, but witnesses from every walk of life told the same account, and none of them backed down. Eventually, the search stopped waiting for the next chance sighting. The North American Wood Ape Conservancy set up long-term field operations in a remote stretch of the Oklahoma Ouachitas the team calls Area X, 60,000 acres buried inside more than 500,000 acres of national forest. During Operation Endurance, from June to August 2011, researchers camped in the field for weeks at a stretch, betting that whatever lived there might slip up over a longer stay. It worked. Investigators logged over 1,000 rock-throwing incidents. Testing ruled out gravity or rolling debris. Rocks from coin-sized to basketball-sized came whistling through the brush, some striking cabin roofs with startling accuracy. One team member watched a long, black, hair-covered arm throw a rock directly at him. Then came the audio. In July 2012, a recorder just outside the cabin captured whistles, pant hoots, grunts, and huffs from mere feet away, followed by a rock thrown onto the porch. Multitonal vocalizations researchers say are closer to a gibbon than anything native to North America. And in 2017, after broadcasting great ape calls to provoke a response, researchers got the X-roar, a gnarly, raspy, growling roar, in investigator Ken Helmer's words. A mountain lion biologist at UCLA had no answer. I have no idea what is on that recording. Definitely doesn't sound like a mountain lion, though. Across the Ozarks and Ouachitas, the reports go well beyond a shape in the trees. The most common is the wood knock, a heavy, hollow crack witnesses compared to Paul Bunyan swinging a 60-inch baseball bat. And these knocks talk back. Area X researchers found their own knocks often answered by identical knocks from somewhere in the forest. In one 2018 incident, a team clacking rocks together got an immediate response from dense brush just 40 meters out. Then there's faux speech, or samurai chatter, fast, rhythmic, speech-like sound that plays almost like a conversation in an unknown language. The theory: if humans evolved the anatomy for complex speech as bipedal apes, a related bipedal species could have evolved something similar in parallel. And in 2013, researcher Kathy Strain documented what looked like nut-cracking stations in Area X, signs of tool use for food processing, a behavior seen in chimpanzees but never in bears or anything else native to these woods. The evidence mainstream science takes most seriously is the footprint record. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an anatomy and anthropology professor at Idaho State University, has examined over 300 casts and keeps finding the same anomaly: the mid-tarsal break. A human foot has a fixed arch built for a stiff, locked stride. These tracks show a flexible joint partway down the foot that leaves a pressure ridge, pushed up soil in the middle of the print as the foot bends during each step. Meldrum has traced this feature back to casts from as early as 1958, and it turns up consistently in both Missouri and Pacific Northwest reports. That flexible foot explains the gliding walk witnesses keep describing. Slightly bent knees and hips let the animal move without the up and down bounce of a human stride. Exactly what you'd expect from something modeled at over 700 pounds, picking its way across broken ground. And the tracks don't match anything else in the woods. Bears leave alternating forefoot and hindfoot prints with claw marks and a pointed heel. These are bipedal, hindfoot-only impressions. No claws, no alternating pattern. Near Big Cedar, Oklahoma, investigator Alton Higgins found 16-inch tracks in dried mud right next to actual bear tracks. Even the local hunter on scene could tell the difference at a glance. This isn't a story that ended with the 1970s. In May 2019, KSMU Springfield put Missouri's count at 147 logged sightings. By August 2026, that number sits at 168 and climbing. The last few years alone have added plenty. A Crawford County fisherman had a rock thrown at him at the exact spot where a similar incident happened before. A Clinton County resident reported 2 sets of large green eyes catching a spotlight in the dark. In August 2025, a trail camera in Butler County reportedly caught a bipedal figure on private land near Poplar Bluff. And in February 2026, a family of 3 in Bryan County, Oklahoma, watched a tall, upright figure cross a power line easement in broad daylight. Whatever's out there, it hasn't read the history books telling it this story is supposed to be over. On one side, no body, no bone, no DNA sample mainstream zoology accepts. On the other, a continuous terrain-following record in the Ozarks and Ouachitas stretching back more than 190 years. Black bear misidentification is real, and it almost certainly explains a good chunk of these reports. But it doesn't explain multitonal vocalizations, wood knocks that answer back, or footprints with a biomechanical signature that anticipated what science would later learn about early human ancestors' gait, decades before researchers had the tools to know it. So, when you look out over the hollows of Pike County or the ridgelines of the Ouachita Uplift, the honest answer is, we don't know. Relic hominoid, undocumented great ape, or a very old trick of the human mind? It's still an open question. But for the people who live and work in these highlands, it was never just a story. It's a mystery still standing in the tree line, waiting. That's the record as it stands. Thanks for spending this one with us. If you want more deep dives into the strange corners of American wilderness, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a like if this one held up. And if there's a mystery, a machine, or a moment in history you think deserves this kind of treatment, tell us in the comments. We read everyone, and some of our best episodes started right there.